What's up, people? Here we are again in this epic podcast week with two gentlemen who squat more than I could ever hope to have done in my life. Me and Lando combined would not even come near one of these fine gentlemen we have here. We have Raleigh Moore, part of our fitness staff at the Onnit Academy, and our special guest sitting across from me here is the legendary one and only Mark Rippetoe, affectionately known as Rip. Welcome, my friend. Thanks for making this drive all the way out here to come see us here.
Absolutely, Aubrey.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Excellent.
Glad to be here.
So tell us a little bit, for the people who aren't familiar with your body of work and how you got your name in this game. You know, tell us a little bit where you came from and you know where you started to break out and kind of catch people's attention.
Well, I've been in this business since 1978. Which is quite a while, I suppose. Owned a gym since 1984 and was introduced to barbell training by Bill Starr and competed in powerlifting for 10 years back in the 80s and 80s, 70s and 80s. I probably went to my first power meet in 78. It was 78, and retired from competition in 88, primarily because I wasn't very good at it, and just kind of retreated into meet announcing and running my gym. I guess the salient point here is that having run a gym since 1984 and having taught everybody that came in the gym how to do the barbell exercises. I have been coaching the primary barbell exercises since 1978, basically, and have taught 10,000 people how to squat.
So you've seen some really ugly squats come in through your door.
Learned how to fix them. That's the most.
You're like that swing coach that they send all the terrible golfers to. You know,
right,
when you got a really bad swing.
I've learned how to fix them, and I can fix them very quickly too. Everything you can do wrong, I've seen done a couple of thousand times, and I've got ways to fix these things very, very quickly. We don't shrink away from addressing movement problems under the bar. That's what we do, and. I was encouraged by a bunch of guys back in '04 to write a book about it, and I started.
So 84 to '04, that's 20 years of experience.
20 years of experience before I started writing about it.
Right.
And I wrote the first edition of Starting Strength, and we published that in '05, and then we published the second edition, the first having become. I learn all the time, and every time when I accumulate enough stuff, I have to make another edition because the previous one becomes obsolete. So there's a bunch of stuff in the first two editions that's wrong. That
we're always learning. We've
learned we're wrong, and we've revised our approach on a lot of this stuff. So we're in our third edition.
And that alone is revolutionary sometimes in the fitness industry, learning you're wrong and revising. Some people just stick to their guns.
Yeah, I know. I know. Our primary emphasis in our method is being able to explain why for every aspect of everything we do. When you ask me the question why, I should be able to tell you. And if I can't, well, I need to figure that out then. And then if I figure out enough stuff about why, and it changes the previous approach we were using, we revise it and move on. Because I learn all the time. I'm still learning.
Yeah.
Just like you are. You know, smart people learn. Smart people were wrong. That's why we're smarter than we used to be.
Yeah,
because we learn.
That's the process.
Right? Should be.
Should be.
Should be. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's not. Quite often it's not. And we pride ourselves on our ability to analyze the movement patterns using just physics and biomechanics and musculoskeletal anatomy and that sort of thing. And we try to apply some criteria to the lifts that allows us to develop a way to do them that gets the most efficient job of getting strong under the bar done. Mm-hmm. We're not power lifters. We deal in general strength and conditioning, primarily strength. I leave the conditioning to other people, and we just concentrate on our little narrow niche, teaching beginners how to do the 5 basic lifts.
So if you were going to, give your pitch to that average, everyday individual about why they need to put themselves underneath a back squat and put themselves through some of these basic core lifts, what would you say to the average individual who's maybe playing a little co-ed soccer, like this gentleman across from us here, just trying to stay fit.
Right.
I play men's soccer.
Okay, he plays men's soccer. Sorry, everybody. Strike that from the record. He plays men's soccer, high-level men's recreational soccer.
He's not going to run into women on the soccer. That would be demeaning.
Yeah.
Right.
So just your average everyday individual, and I'm now in that category too. What are the reasons to really get in there and do some of that strength work?
Well, because strength is the basic human physical adaptation. It is the basis from which all of the other physical parameters of athletic prowess are derived. Power, speed, endurance, accuracy, precision, Jim Cowley's list of 10 things, all derive from the one basic human adaptation, which is strength, force production against an external resistance. Mm-hmm. It's how we interact with our environment. And
I want to get at the gym already, just listening to you.
Well, you need to be in the gym. You need to gain some muscular body weight. You need to get big and strong because everything else is easier when you are.
Yeah.
Because strength is, again, the most basic general adaptation. It is not specific in any way. It is specific in that it applies to every single other human physical endeavor. Marathon guys, endurance specialists, need to be stronger than they are. Mm-hmm. They don't need to primarily focus on it, but they need to be stronger.
It looks like it when you see them on
does
TV.
To me, doesn't it? Yeah, I
know that.
don't like 5'4", 125 doesn't. That's not aesthetically pleasing to me, but who am I to decide?
Why do you think that is?
Why do I think that I don't like guys that are 5'4", 125?
No. Why do you think marathon runners need more strength?
Because endurance is an expression of strength in that any endurance activity is a series of submaximal contractions. And the stronger you are, the more submaximal each one of those contractions can be. In other words, the greater percentage, the lower the percentage of absolute strength you use in an endurance activity, the more room there is between your absolute strength and each one of these submaximal contractions, the longer you can do it because they're less fatiguing, or the higher relative to the previous submax each one of those contractions can be. In other words, the probably the easiest analogy is the bicycling analogy. We have this thing called the Hotter Than Hell 100 up in Wichita Falls every year. You guys may be aware of that.
Bike race?
15,000 people come from all over everywhere to do
it.
Because it's flat. Mm-hmm. It's flat up there. There's not any hills in Wichita County. Yeah, there's a few, but certainly nothing like down here. It's nice and flat, and everybody's century time looks real good because it's flat. Mm-hmm. So you got an average recreationalist cyclist. Let's say he's going down the highway at 18 miles an hour, recreational pace, and he's doing a recreational cadence of 75 RPM. Okay, each one of those pedal strokes represents an application of force to the pedals that is a percentage of his absolute strength. It can be measured as a percentage of his absolute strength, right? Mm-hmm. So let's take the recreational cyclist, and this is the hard part. We're going to take him off of the bicycle for about a month, and we're going to get him in the gym. And we're going to take him up and see what he can do for a set of 5, because that's how we start everybody. We're going to go up to a set of 5 squats. And that set of 5 squats, his first day set of 5, is going to be a proxy for his absolute strength. Okay? Then, Over the course of the next month, we're going to add about 100 pounds to his squat, which in many cases is an example of doubling the man's strength. We can do that in 5-6 weeks. That's not unusual.
Can you call him a man if they only squat 100 pounds to begin with? I don't know.
We can call him a cyclist. Let's just call him a cyclist instead of a man. But let's say we start the kid off at 100 pounds for a set of 5, and at the end of 4 or 5 weeks in the gym, we've got him up to 200 pounds for a set of 5. Okay? That represents an increase in his absolute strength of about 100%. Now, go back out on the bike. 18 miles an hour, 75 RPM. That was a percentage of his absolute strength, wasn't it? Let's say it is a 20% effort just every time, right? We've doubled his strength. What have we done to the percentage of his effort against the pedals every time?
Yeah, we reduced
Math.
it.
We've cut it in half.
Yeah, reduced it.
We've reduced it by half. Now, what can he do with that extra room? He can go longer because each rep is a less fatiguing event, or he can go faster. He can push a taller gear. Mm-hmm. He can go up to 20, 21 miles an hour because he can push a taller gear.
So it seems like it would be striking the right balance between strength but not the demands that the increased muscle mass would have on the oxygen intake, right? Because that's going to fatigue that cycle a little bit faster.
Well, a bigger motor doesn't slow the car down.
Right.
We have found. We're not asking the guy to become a power lifter. Mm-hmm. See, and this is the resistance you run into from endurance athletes is, I'm going to gain muscle, man. Then I'll have to carry that extra weight around on the bike. Look, we're asking you to go from 155 pounds to 170 pounds. We're not asking you to become a 295-pound super heavyweight power lifter. Yeah. You misunderstand. We're asking you to get up off of your lazy ass and get a little bit stronger, okay? Mm-hmm. For an endurance athlete, we're not asking for a strength specialization, but an increase in your squat from 100 pounds to 200 pounds hardly represents a strength specialization.
And you're going to fit in some jeans.
Hey, you're going to look like a human male.
Uh-huh. That's important.
I mean, you're going to gain 15 pounds of muscle mass. Guess what? That'll help you go faster.
Yeah.
Because the thing that you're gaining is the thing that improves your performance.
Right.
I'm not asking, like a climber, we would, if I was training a climber. Now, he's got to haul that weight up the face. He's got to haul it up the rock, right? I don't want to take a climber from 165 pounds to 225. But if I take him from 165 to 185, his climbing will improve. Mm-hmm. Again, we're not power lifters.
Right.
We're not strength specialists. We train people for general strength improvement. And the weaker you are, the more radically important this is for you to do.
Sure, I've seen that. We have a decathlete that comes out and trains and works with us on it. His name's Trey Hardy. He won the silver medal. And I've been incredibly impressed with his overall application of strength in pretty much any category. Because with that wide range of things that he does, he has to be pretty much strong everywhere. And that's like the key thing that he's constantly
decathlete
working.
is not going to specialize in strength. Mm-hmm. He's not going to throw the shot like a shot putter.
Right.
But he's got to throw the shot.
Yep.
And at the same time run and do all the other things that are involved in that event. And he can't do it if he's not weak, if he's not strong. Mm-hmm. So the decathlete is a real good representation of a general strength athlete. He'll be the first to tell you he's a strength athlete.
Yeah. So what's your system? Let's say someone comes in. Let's say it's myself, and I say, Rip, I want to add strength. That's it. The muscle mass will come. I get it.
Sure.
I want
muscle mass is a side effect.
Of the strength. I want to add strength over the next 2 months. What's your general recommendation for that plan? That pure strength plan?
Well, it's just math, Aubrey. It really is. It's just a math situation. What we're going to do is I'm going to show you how to squat because you're probably doing it wrong relative to the way we teach the movement. We
At least
teach
15% wrong.
Well, at least 15%. We've got to check out your foot position. We're going to adjust the squat in order to involve the most muscle mass over the greatest effective range of motion. Notice I put the qualifier in there. Effective range of motion.
So that sets the how far you go down.
And then, well, it's an ass to grass squat involves you relaxing some muscles, hamstrings, glutes, quads, low back, which undid step one because we're trying to involve the greatest amount of muscle mass. We relax some of it, we undone step one. So if we do the greatest amount of muscle mass over the greatest effective range of motion, then we are able to use the heaviest weight that we can use so that you get the strongest. So we're going to tailor each one of these exercises, the squat, the press, the deadlift, the bench press, and we're going to power clean, power snatch, and we're going to do some chins. We may not start the power snatch for 2 or 3 months, but we'll start off we'll power clean.
Prime it, yeah.
Yeah. We'll get that movement pattern ready because we want to involve some power production. We want power production to keep pace with strength. And we'll talk more about that later if you want to. But what I'm going to do the first day is we're going to tailor it. We're going to fix the squat. We're going to adjust some things about
I
the
really
squat.
want you to fix Orlando's squat, like right
And-
now. If we could, no, I don't know.
Well, we'll take him out there in a minute.
Let's say
show you what
let's
you
say
can do.
someone comes
But
in.
what do you do wrong? Yeah, still talking to Aubrey here.
It's related.
Okay. Then, after we teach you how to do these movements, we're going to go up in weight, 20, 30 pounds a set. We're going to do sets of 5 because 5s are the most general type of strength exposure in barbell training. And what we're going to do is take the weight up to a point where my coaching eye, my experienced eye, will see that the next jump would make your form come apart a little bit. And we're going to stay right there at that weight and do 2 more sets of 5. So let's say we start you off today, and I take you up. I'm assuming you're about halfway strong, so we'll probably take you up to something on the order of 185 for 3 sets of 5, doing it the new way. Some new things will be sore. Because if I take you up to 215, something's going to come loose.
Right.
All right. Now, what we're going to do is write down 185. And then the next time you come in the gym, we're going to go to 195. And then we're going to go to 205. And then 215. And then 225.
Sounds very.
It's math. This isn't
That's
complicated.
science, Rick.
This isn't complicated. This doesn't need to be. As fun as it is to make things complicated,
Yeah.
as profitable as it often is to make things complicated, they don't need to be. It is the process of going from here to here. And this process, this slope, is what we call training. Right?
Yep.
It is the process of designing a stress to produce an adaptation. It's different than exercising. Because exercising means doing something today for the way it makes you feel today. Like when you go by the gym on the way home and you go in and go to the dumbbell rack and fart around on the front of the mirrors for 15, 20 minutes, and then you ride the treadmill for a half hour while you watch the news, and then you get off and you go take a shower and you go home. You did something for today. You burned some calories, you got sweaty and tired, you exercised without any thought for any kind of a process that's going to go from here to here. The minute you begin to apply the process, right, then you're training, because the process is specific to the outcome. A marathon competitor doesn't train the same way an Olympic weightlifter trains, but both of them prepare for a performance event
Yeah.
by training for it. Right?
Makes sense.
The process is training.
Yeah.
If there's no process, there's
It's
no
exercising.
It's exercising. That
I get it.
vocabulary word makes sense?
It makes
to you?
sense. So at
Now,
some-
here's another one. What is practice?
that would probably be performing the skills necessary.
Right. That's practicing the skills over and over again with a high degree of precision and accuracy that is specific to when you're going to perform, to the performance of your event
For
in
example,
a competition.
For example, I've been practicing for the time I need to make a baby diligently.
Yes.
Practicing.
Right. Have
So
you
when
got
that
it
time
down?
comes, I don't know, Rep. I got to keep practicing.
Never stop practicing. Never stop practicing, Aubrey.
But
Never stop
when that day
man.
comes, I think I'll show up.
When it's time, maybe you'll be able to step up and actually get the job
That's
done.
it.
Cut the cheese, so to speak.
That's it.
Okay. So practice is what you do when you shoot, when you batting practice, pitching practice. That's different from training, because training really can only apply to the physical parameters that are modifiable over a long period of time. Strength is trainable. At the extreme specialization of marathon training, endurance is trainable. But for the athletes you and I deal with, people that are interested in the general application of strength to other sports, what we're talking about when we say training is strength.
Yeah.
For instance, how long can you make your deadlift go up? 6, 8, 10, 20 years?
Yeah.
For a long time.
Years.
You can go from a 500 deadlift to an 800 deadlift. It takes a long time, but that process is the training.
So do you
Right?
ever have?
How long can you make your leg extension go up? About 6
Why
weeks.
would you try?
About 6 weeks. So you can't train the leg extension, you can train the deadlift. Why is that?
Because
Why would that be? It's a really extremely important question.
One's a weird random movement that humans created.
One involves one joint,
Yeah.
and it involves a muscle group, and the other is a movement pattern that involves the entire body. And as it turns out, the more muscle mass involved in a movement pattern, the longer that strength of that movement pattern can go up. So we pick just a few. That's why we've just got 5 or 6 exercises that we're going to use for our strength training program, because the rest of these small exercises don't improve for long periods of time. When you train, you might use some of those exercises, the other exercises, as assistance exercises. But in terms of training the deadlift is the key to the deadlift, because it involves all this muscle mass. The stress can produce a systemic stress effect that causes an adaptation, if you can get recovered from it. Recovery is an important part of the equation is stress, recovery, adaptation, right? That's training, right? And here's the training effect. And when you just back off and understand that there are only a few movements you can actually train, and that the rest of it is practice, and that practice and training combine together to produce a performance, then several important things kind of fall out of that analysis, don't they? For instance, if you go to the gym every day, you go to the gym every day, and about once every 6 weeks, somebody asks you to do as many handstand push-ups and as many thrusters as you can do.
That happens.
Does happen, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Having not prepared for that performance, you're doing a performance
Right.
in the absence of both practice and training. And that can be a problem, can't it?
Wait, that sounds like something. What are you
Yeah.
getting at here, Rip?
Well, this is, if you think about it just a little while, CrossFit has a inherent problem, because they ask for performances.
Mm-hmm.
They don't train for those performances, and they don't practice for those performances, but they ask for them nonetheless. For instance, their workout Isabel, the 30 snatches with 60 kilos for time.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of a problem if you haven't snatched in 3 weeks, isn't it?
I would imagine.
I know it's supposed to be sub-maximal, and yeah, you can scale it down. But the 29th one may be done under conditions of fatigue. And when you perform a highly skilled movement pattern, a movement pattern that requires precision and accuracy under conditions of fatigue, having not been practiced, and during the previous period of having not done it, your strength hasn't gone up, you're asking for all kinds of problems, aren't you?
It would seem like it, and it would seem like the statistics on injury rates from CrossFit might back up some of your thesis
Well,
there.
what they're going to say is there aren't any statistics on the injury rates from CrossFit.
It's blasphemy.
Well, there aren't any statistics. Does that mean there are no injuries? Or does that mean that there is an absence of peer-reviewed data?
Right.
Well, we don't need to discuss that in several. It would almost seem as though I've got a grudge. I don't. I just have a problem with their analysis.
Well, you said it right there. I mean, your style of training, you train to the point where the form breaks and then you stop. That's
before
it stops. Yeah,
before because we don't want form to break. We want correct technical execution.
So you see that point happen.
We're willing to put up with a form breakdown at a competition, at a real no shit competition where there are judges and where it matters.
Yeah.
We don't want that kind of thing to happen in the gym, though. Mm-hmm. Now, once you get to be an advanced lifter, okay, you're in a position to make your own decisions about how much low back rounding you're willing to put up with. If you're pulling 800 off the floor and your back's a little round, I don't care. If you're squatting 800 pounds, I don't care where you put the bar on your back. Doesn't make any difference. You're strong. You're entitled to an opinion about it. That's not what we do, though. We teach novices how to get strong. And we have an analysis for the best way to do these exercises, and that's what we teach. And once a guy is strong and he's been training 4 years, he is entitled to an opinion just like I am.
Yep.
And if he wants to do it a different way, fine, I don't care. But that's not what we do. We teach novices how to correctly train with barbells. And every piece of our analysis, I think, is pretty airtight. I've never heard a lot of people type on the internet about things, but
you type about all kinds of shit.
People type about all kinds of shit on the internet.
So you mentioned recovery as a piece, and we haven't really talked about that because that is the thing that interrupts that linear progression.
Absolutely.
Right? Because if you're talking 85, 95, 205, if you're not getting adequate recovery, it might be 85, 95, 205, 85 again for one session.
So recovery has from the stress is going to be influenced by two factors. One, the stress. Now, you can do a lot of really, really stupid things in the gym and produce sufficient stress that you cannot recover from it. That means your training is not really training. You hadn't thought about it correctly. The process is faulty. If you produce stress in excess of your ability to recover from it, then you've got a training problem. Mm-hmm. You've got a problem with the programming.
How do you determine that besides just your coach's eye? Like if you're just training on your own, because not all of us are going to have access to you or high quality trainers.
For instance, let's go back to your example. Mm-hmm. If I was going to take you up and I determined that 185 for 3 sets of 5 was your first day's workout, okay? I would fuck this up by taking you up to 225 the next workout. That would be unprofessional. It would not comport with my decades of experience. That's not what you do. I don't want to overface you. I don't want to tear you down. I want to give you an opportunity to adapt to the stress through correct recovery, and then I want to stress you again 48 hours later. Because you're a novice in strength, I can make you go up every 48 hours because the stress recovery adaptation cycle for a novice takes place over 48 to 72 hours. And I know that because I've done this for 37 years. So in other words, since you are a novice, if I make you try to go up 40 pounds between Monday and Wednesday, I'm coaching you incorrectly. If between Monday and Wednesday, I have you go up to 185 on the squat and then go do something else on Wednesday, I'm also coaching you incorrectly because I'm not asking for another adaptation. Adaptations accumulate, thus the slope, right? Adaptations must accumulate. In order for them to accumulate, I have to ask for them to occur, right? So I'm going to go up to 195, and then I'm going to go up to 205, and then 215, and then 225, and then I may have to ask for 230 the next time, just a 5-pound jump. And this process, if I do it correctly, can continue for 6 or 7 months, at the end of which you'll be squatting 385. Now, an increase in squat from 185 to 385 is quite significant, isn't it? And
Indeed.
the process is 5 pounds of workout. And as long as that can be accomplished, then that's what I need to do, because that represents the best use of our time under the bar. And until that process has gone through, anything else is really a gigantic waste of time. Because if I come in and I have the ability to get you another 5 pounds on the squat, and I go off and do burpees or something like that, well, I'm wasting an opportunity to get you stronger.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know that even if you're so crazy that you actually want to do a bunch of burpees, you'll be better at doing them if your squat went from 185 to 385 than doing them in the same condition of physical strength that you started off in.
Strength first.
Strength first, because strength makes everything else easier. I mean, is that...
Makes sense to
You
me.
see a flaw in that analysis? I haven't yet. Now, there reaches a point at which strength becomes... See, we do this. It's a point of diminishing returns. Depending on what you want out of your training, it may make no sense to devote the same amount of time after 4 years to strength training that you did when you first started, right? You're already squatting 455 for a set of 5.
So that's kind of like the level where you can just take it easy.
Well, that's the level when you need to maintain your strength, but that you don't need to concentrate so much on it. But
we got a lot of work, Lando, before we can stop squatting.
Well,
all
see,
right?
but what's important to understand,
we got to take some time.
what's important to understand is that for an elite male athlete, 455 for 5 does not represent a strength specialization.
Mm-hmm.
Guys in the NFL ought to be doing that, shouldn't they?
Sure.
And if they can't, then their strength coach,
Then they're kickers.
yeah, well, they're kickers, or their strength coach has got an inaccurate perspective on what's going to help them on the field, and that's rather common, I'm sure you understand.
Sure.
My information is that the Texans down in Houston, we're uncomfortably close to Houston here in Austin.
Mm-hmm.
I'm used to being far enough away from it where I can't really smell it or feel the heat.
Atlanta's getting nervous over there.
Houston guy.
Yeah.
I hear that there is a sign up in the weight room at the Texans training facility, no back squats. You heard that?
I haven't heard
You
that.
heard?
How dare they?
I swear to God, one of my coaches in Houston had told me that they don't allow you to do back squats in the Texans training facility, and it's just, if that's true, let's just assume that Andy's full of shit. Okay, I'd rather assume Andy's full of shit,
Yeah.
although I don't believe he is.
I have a hard time believing J.J. Watt's never done a squat.
Look, I'm just telling you what I've heard. Okay, and knowing enough about collegiate D1 level and professional strength and conditioning coaches, I don't have a problem believing that at all.
Yeah. And we know for a fact Brian Cushing's done squats because he trains with Joe DeFranco, who's our guy. He squats the shit out of the bar. So he must be really annoyed if there's no back squats in the Texas
Pissed
locker
off
room.
at that
He's
stuff.
just pissed
Well, he
off
may
all
be
the
training
time.
somewhere else,
He is. Yeah.
which would not be surprising, would it? I
Interesting.
mean, you ask a guy to go out on the field and hit somebody, at some level, he knows, look, I got to get strong. And he knows what's made him strong, right?
Yeah.
Well, it was either squats, deadlifts, barbell exercise, or steroids. So anytime you say the word steroids, what you're saying is strong,
Yeah.
aren't you?
Yeah.
I mean, what do? They don't make your technique better. There's no snatch steroid.
Right.
There's no technique steroid. There is only strong, right? So if we're talking about steroids, we're talking about strong. We're talking about people that know they need to be strong. And if their strength coach is not going to enable them to get strong or force them to stay strong, then they're going to do it some other way.
They got to be strong.
And I would submit that it's a hell of a lot more convenient to just go ahead and squat, deadlift, press, bench press, do your cleans, than it is to have to go in front of a Senate committee for taking steroids.
That's baseball.
Well, it's just baseball so far. Just wait till the Senate gets through with everybody.
So
go ahead, Ron.
you talk about elite athlete squat in the NFL squats 455 for reps of 5.
Well, does that seem unreasonable to you?
No, but that's a broad spectrum where
Right.
the Drew Breeses and the Peyton Mannings of the world, I'm sure, aren't putting.
You know, I'm not saying they
can
all
squat the shit
do.
out
I'm
of it.
saying they should. I'm not saying they do. I'm saying they should. Do you think that it's unreasonable to expect a quarterback to squat 455 for 5? You squat 455 for 5?
Yes, I do.
Did you consider that to be a big giant accomplishment?
Around here.
Now there's an indictment of Aubrey, isn't it?
God.
But what I'm talking about is
Jesus.
genetic freak 38-inch vertical jump guys in the NFL. Why are they not squatting 455 for 5? What's weird about that? That's not hard to do.
No.
You just go from 315 to 320 to 325 to 330 to 335, and you do that a while, and pretty soon you're at 455 for 5. Right?
Yeah.
And as a result of that, when somebody hits you, you can hit them back. When somebody hits you, you're less likely to get injured. When you explode, you're exploding with a higher level of force production.
You hear that, Tony Romo?
Yeah.
You listening?
Hey,
You said earlier that
this isn't complicated, boys. Again, this is not complicated. This is just arithmetic. Now, I said earlier, I think you're going to the power thing, right?
No, I'm just.
Oh,
you said
well,
strength
we'll
will
totally
increase
save that for
all
a minute.
capacity.
Sure it does.
And performance.
Obviously it does.
So you're telling me if Peyton Manning could squat 455 times 5, he'd perform better on the field?
Yes, that's what I'm telling you. And more importantly, what I'm telling you is it's not a difficult process to get him there. So why not do it? That's not heavy. It's not heavy.
do you have
for a guy with that genetics? You think 455 for 5 is heavy?
Do you have like an audio tape people can play when they lift, so they can just hear your voice as they're
Well,
lifting?
no, that's an idea.
That's
No,
a good
I don't
idea.
think-
'Cause I would put that on my iPod and I would listen to that
Well, you
shit
just
every
rely
time.
on the new
Every
system.
Well,
time I
then
didn't
what
want
we're
to
going to
squat.
do, you're going to make a little loop out of this podcast, out of the audio of this
Lando,
podcast,
can you get
and
on
play
that?
it in the gym out there.
For sure.
Be-
Not heavy.
It's just not heavy.
That's not heavy.
It's just not heavy. It really is not heavy. 455 for 5 with a guy who has been filtered through the genetic filter of college football and professional selection. 25-year-old guy getting paid that kind of money that's not strong enough to squat 455 for 5. Fire him. Get him the hell out of here. They're not trying hard enough. Because you will elevate the performance of the game by doing that. And I don't think that that's even a controversial statement. Stronger athletes are better. Now, what is power? Let's talk about power.
Let's talk about power.
Let's talk about power. Power is strength displayed quickly, right? Force times distance over time, that little equation that boys have tattooed on their side. The power is an interesting phenomena because power is quite thoroughly limited by genetics. Now, I'm sure out in the gym you've got a Vertec, don't you?
like a vertical.
A vertical jump
Yeah.
testing device.
We do.
One of the reasons that the vertical jump is such a reliable measurement of genetic power development ability is because you can't really train for it. The vertical jump.
See, I told you that's why I can't dunk, because I can't train for that shit. It's not possible.
If your vertical jump is 22, the best training program that you could ever possibly put together might take it up to 25 over a 4-year period. Maybe. All of that 18-inch to 36-inch vertical jump shit takes place on the internet.
So no
And that's
strength
the
shoes.
only-
So you don't sell strength shoes, those things with the platforms on the front of the shoes.
We don't sell anything except memberships to the gym, and we sell squats, deadlifts, and cleans. Okay, so in other words, strength displayed quickly. The part of that equation that's trainable is strength. The displayed quickly part is genetic. And that's just all there is to it. That's why everybody in the NFL was recruited for a certain set of physical abilities. Among them, the most predominant among them is their vertical jump. Their ability to accelerate in a very, very short period of time. Their own body weight enough to get it off of the ground and move it 38 inches up in the air. Since you can't jump slow, the vertical jump is an extremely efficient measurement of rapid force development. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, that's genetic.
So you're saying you can really only train strength, which will help power,
right?
Which will help things, but you can't directly train power.
You can't directly train the ability to recruit more motor units into contraction. You can train it a little bit, but what I'm saying is that if you got a guy with a 12-inch vertical jump, he's never going to have an 18-inch vertical jump. I don't care what types of fancy D1 college practice you do on explosive movements. Mm-hmm. You can't practice his genetics into explosion from 12-inch vertical. It can't be done. It can't be done.
You're breaking hearts out here, Rip.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. But there's always the band. Look, not everybody gets to be a professional athlete. And not everybody's got 180 IQ. Not everybody's got a 38-inch vertical. You've got physical geniuses and you've got intellectual geniuses. There's different levels of physical ability. I'm real sorry about that, but I don't think it's even arguable. It's not arguable. That's just the way things are. So what we do to select the NFL is we find the physical geniuses. All right? And if you're a physical genius and you're not squatting 455 for 5, then you're a lazy physical genius. You're a lazy physical genius. And there'd be back to my original point, there'd be a hell of a lot less controversy about steroids if more guys would get under the bar and get their squat and their deadlift up.
I believe it.
Because it makes the steroids essentially unnecessary.
I believe it.
Okay.
You mentioned Drew Brees, and I had the pleasure to go to high school with him. And actually, to your point, I remember the one thing that I remember, because I played varsity basketball while he was a senior playing football. And the one thing I remember was he was always in the gym squatting, front squatting. I mean, this was 97.
Isn't that crazy?
He was in the gym. He was front squatting, back squatting. The dude was always in there squatting.
Didn't he?
He knew something.
He knew something, didn't he?
Yeah. He knew how to win high school football games.
Yeah.
He
knew how to get himself in a position where he can hit you.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it was interesting to see, because he was outperforming a lot of the kind of strength positions in these strength lifts, because he was just in there.
Well, there were two factors.
Over and over.
Two factors. He did the work, and he had the vertical. Mm-hmm. So efficiently developed genetics are the key to high-level sports performance.
What about like punter? You think all punters got a 38-inch vertical?
I don't care about the punters. I don't care about the kicker. I'm not even a football fan, and I don't care about the punter or the kicker.
Some people care.
Yeah, but I've never seen anybody punt slowly. I will have to say that.
That's
never
true.
seen anybody kick slowly. I guess those guys are probably
in that freak.
Probably,
They've been selected for that leg speed.
Yeah.
So You don't think that if I say I squat a buck 15 and have an 18-inch vert, and you bring me up to 455 times 5, you don't think the vert's going to drastically increase?
No.
Not at all?
No, it won't. Because you can squat 455 for 5 slowly. You can do it slowly, can't you? What's a fast squat?
CrossFit.
Well, no, I mean, I mean when you're like 135. How long does it take you to squat 135?
A second.
Second and a quarter, a second and a half, something like that. And how fast is the 155 or the 455 going to go? It's going to take 5 or 6 seconds, but it still goes. In other words, the squat's not limited by power; it's limited by strength. Right? I've got an extremely shitty vertical. How about 22? When I was deadlifting 633, my best power clean was 275 because I'm not explosive. But the deadlift doesn't require that you be explosive. In fact, the fact that the deadlift can be done slowly explains quite a bit of the mechanical differences between the deadlift and the snatch and the clean. They're different pulls because of the need to accelerate things. Right? You can't do a slow clean or a snatch, but you can do a slow deadlift. And there are several important mechanical distinctions between those two pulls as a result of that.
It seems like, we're friends with a lot of fighters. A lot of them are in-house right now, world champions.
You mean they're like out there right now?
Actually, out there were some of the little guys, the 135-pound champions here, TJ Dillashaw.
Keep my mouth shut on the way back to the
5'4",
truck.
125.
Yeah. But, it's pretty well known in the fight community that there's that element of punching power. Punching power.
You either got it or you don't.
You got it or you don't.
Yeah, let's see.
And it's this kind of weird.
There you go.
This weird thing that everybody knows. Oh, that guy. It doesn't matter how hard they're trained. They can improve it a little bit. But there's some people who just, when they hit you, you go to sleep.
George Foreman.
Yeah, exactly. That weird.
George Foreman.
that weird thing.
You guys don't remember this, but my God, there was a Foreman fight, and I think it was Frazier, and I can't remember specifically. I was a little kid, and I just remember watching this fight with my dad, and George Foreman uppercut the guy, and his feet left the ground.
Like a cartoon.
Just like a cartoon. He just picked him up off the floor with his right hand. Now, that's just, my God. How'd you like to be? It'd be like being run over by a truck.
Yeah.
It's just, and you either got it or you don't. That's it, and that's my point. At some level, that type of explosion is genetic. But to the extent that it's trainable, to the extent that power is trainable by increasing the force of the power production, the strength part of it. Strength displayed quickly, right? We can get stronger. Even if you're not powerful, you can get stronger. But here's the pattern that you typically see. Kid walks in the gym with a 12-inch, 18-inch, normal, 22-inch vertical jump. The kid's going to get strong. He will typically display his first day squat might be 105, 115, 125. Might even be 95 pounds. Kid walks in the gym with a 36-inch vertical. What we're going to see is his first day squat is going to be 225. He's going to be stronger already, and he's going to get stronger faster because of his superior neuromuscular system. But the neuromuscular system is what he was born with. Mm-hmm. See, this is why I'm telling you guys, and everybody's going, 455 for 5 for that type of a physical specimen. It does not represent a remarkable physical achievement.
Right. Should be par for the course.
It should be normal. And if it's not, if these guys are running around getting paid $18 billion a year to play a sport that is, in fact, power dependent, if they're not willing to get under the bar and get strong, well, get somebody that's willing to do that,
I hear you, Rip.
You
All
see
right.
what I'm saying?
We got to wrap
All
this
right,
up, but
let's do
I
it.
have one favor from you. If you could
Okay.
just look right in the camera and talk to people
Right
there. Talk to these people at home. Get them motivated to get under a bar, get strong, and start squatting. What would you tell them?
Get up off of your lazy asses and get something accomplished, because you can.
I like it.
You like
I like
that?
it,
Okay.
Rip. I appreciate that. We're
Okay,
gonna get
guys.
Lando. You get a better gun on this MP3 game. I want Rip in all my music that I put in there. I want to just have it in. I don't care if it's rock, hip hop. I don't care who it is. Whatever my song I'm listening to, I want like a short Rip interlude in there while I'm working out.
Cool.
Cool.
All right,
man.
Aubrey, thank you, man.
Thank you for coming out. I appreciate it.
Raleigh, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Pleasure. All right, everybody. We got more podcasts coming up. Definitely check out Rip's books and check out everything online. You can find that all, and we'll put out the links as well. Much love, everybody.